What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing a new super evolution that is coming to the game. It is going to be dropping in this month, and it is yet again another Zoro character. So we already know that there's going to be the 6+ for Legend Zoro, being the 8.5 anniversary Zoro, which is going to be, which one is it? This one right here. This is the guy that's going to be super evolving into the quick version. However, we did get news, as you can see here, from Tushanks, who is the resident data miner in the community. He actually went ahead and posted this, that this is going to be the next Rumble season. So currently we have Vivi and Rebecca. That is the current Rumble season right now. It ends very, very soon, probably tonight as of the recording of this video. Within the next couple of hours, we're going to be getting the news with all the anniversary stuff in terms of the Sugafest breakdown, who's available on each part, and this info will probably be teased as well in terms of the fact that, you know, the new Rumble season will be featuring Zoro. So Zoro is going to be free. You just do, I think it's like 50 wins and 50 matches in Rumble for the next season. We'll give you one copy each of the Zoro, and he's going to be 6+ing in the Kazuna Clash that's going to be dropping at the end of the month. So it's really exciting because this is a character that a lot of people have been actually wanting to see get a 6+. He's one of the older units for sure at this point that doesn't have a 6+. The thing is when he dropped, he was actually really strong. Like, he's got some good abilities. Like, we're going to go through his current abilities very shortly, and when you actually read what he does, he seems pretty solid. It's just like, he just needs to be updated in terms of a 2025 standard. And obviously because he only boosts Dex, so being able to change that to, well, he does boost everyone, but his major boost is for Dex, so being able to change that, I think, will be a nice way forward as well. So yeah, obviously this is the artwork for this guy. I gotta say, ink effect and special animation for this character were top tier when it first dropped, so it is going to be a little disheartening seeing this artwork and the special animation for this guy go away with a 6+, but I really hope that they do him justice because yeah, a lot of people loved the artwork and special animation when he first came out. Anyways, let's actually get to breaking down what he does. So, he is a Dex slasher driven. The whole theming of this character was when he was fighting against Kamazo in the Snow in Wano. So, he was a Dex slasher driven. Pretty much past this point, a lot of the Zoros ended up being free spirit focused to obviously work with Luffy. So, with Zoro here, his captain ability would boost the attack of Dex characters by 5x if you have taken 20,000 or more damage. And then if you haven't taken 20,000 or more damage, it's just a 4.5 times boost. And then he also gives all other characters a 4 times boost. You get a rainbow 1.5 times health boost, which is quite strong, as well as reducing special bind duration by 10 turns. So being able to just reduce 10 turns of special bind, obviously fantastic. So having inbuilt utility within that captain effect is phenomenal. He then has another effect where it says that he deals 20% of the enemy's HP and damage to all enemies as soon as you enter a new stage if you've taken over 20,000 damage. So basically, once you reach this threshold of taking 20k, you get this buff of dealing a health cut every time you enter a new stage, as well as the 5 times attack boost in the captain. So obviously major changes need to happen here. Number one, these numbers need to be increased, but I would like to see the damage threshold that you need to hit potentially be lowered. Potentially, if it was, you know, like 10,000 or even less than that, that would be pretty cool. Just so it makes it easier to achieve these higher thresholds, or even potentially just don't even do it at all. Just like have no threshold at all. Just make it a flat every time you enter a new stage, you deal 20% to the enemy, and then a flat whatever major boost. And then obviously this should change as well. Instead of being just Dex, they need to change this to Dex driven slasher. Or what they could do is they could do Dex Straw Hat Pirates, something like that, in terms of, you know, utilizing character tags. If they want character tags to be as prevalent and as powerful as they are kind of seeming them to be, they need to start introducing them on more characters. You know, recently with the big update for the anniversary, we had you know, the new characters come out in introducing the character tags. We had like the free-to-play Sai Luffy. We had a couple of other free-to-play units. Final Tap Kid got access to some tag functionality. There's free-to-play Navy Clash units that got their level limit breaks and limit break expansions. Also got access to tag mechanics. So I wouldn't be shocked if that's going to be the case here. Let's hope that is the case. But what else could they potentially do here? This whole character was focused around speed, being as fast as possible. Like this guy wanted to just blaze through content. He doesn't give cooldown reduction, so I think it's almost a given that he will have some kind of form of cooldown reduction. I would be shocked if he doesn't. I feel like it should be at least -1. I think, honestly, personally speaking, if I was making his 6+, I would give him -2 cooldown to whatever he boosts at the end of the day. So if it is going to be like Dex Straw Hats, give those characters cooldown, or if it's Dex Slasher driven, give those characters cooldown. But the fact that he already has inbuilt special bind removal, they don't need to do too much in his captain effect. It's already pretty well rounded. And then look at his crewmate abilities too. Dex slots beneficial to everyone. That's not a bad thing to have. And also resist 2 turns of special, not even 2 turns. Resist all special reverse when you're inflicted with it. Hard to say like that's bad. Like this character's pretty strong. I want to have a look at his potential abilities real quick. Slot bind, enrage, and he does have cooldown reduction. Reduces his cooldown by 5 at the start of the quest is quite good. Let's go have a look at his super effect. So if you use him as a captain, you need to have one of the following units. So you've got Toki, Luffy, Nami, Usopp, Sanji, Chopper, Robin, Frankie, or Brook. So basically all the Straw Hats except for Jinbei, because Jinbei wasn't a part of the crew yet, as well as Hiyori and Toko. However, depending on how they introduce the 6+ and what theming they're going for, if it ends up being Onigashima Zoro, then they could introduce Jinbei as a part of the superclass requirement. We'll have to see. And the effect itself is not terrible either. It does 75 times its attack and typeless damage to all enemies, so you can use it to wave clear. And it also gives your Dex units a 2 times color affinity for 1 turn, and then super Dex. So obviously this does need to change. 2 times color affinity, it's like whatever. What they could do is make it overrideable. That would be fine, I guess. It would help, but I think that they need to change... They need to change a little bit here. I feel like they need to add another additional effect to make it a little bit more powerful, a little bit more worthwhile, or make the damage higher, make it go through like all defensive effects and stuff like that, just so you can optimally use it for wave clearing. I know that a lot of people actually use this guy for treasure map farming, because having the inbuilt effect to resist special bind and then have the wave clearing in the super type, it is powerful to have that. But there are some other characters that have this type of ability. The one that comes to mind immediately obviously is the strength superclass. Doflamingo also has a special bind removal captain and also has a wave clearing superclass ability. So that's, yeah, not really needs to be changed too much in terms of captain. The super effect, I would like to see a pretty substantial buff. The special ability here, it reduces cooldown by 2 turns. So the fact that he resists special reverse and then gives 2 turns of cooldown is fantastic. That doesn't really need to be changed. He makes his own normal attacks ignore enemies, barriers, and defensive buffs for 1 turn. So this is a really cool effect where, you know, if the enemy has a bunch of defensive effects, barrier, you know, damage threshold, whatever it may be, when you launch Zoro's special, Zoro can just bypass everything by himself. So that's a really cool effect that he has. But obviously it doesn't work for all units. I think that would be a little bit absurd if it did work for all units. So I think it's fine. They could probably keep this. I don't have an issue with that at all. There are circumstances where this comes into play, but most of the time it's a pretty redundant effect, because you typically want your whole crew to bypass the defensive effects. So you want to usually get rid of the buff and then attack normally, rather than just have one unit be your heavy damage dealer, unless if the damage that you're applying to that unit is substantially high. Like hypothetically, if you had like a Toki buff, use it on Zoro gets a 3.5 times attack and orb boost, boom, you're good to go. But overall, it's a pretty redundant effect, but has some weird niche uses. It also does 100 times his attack and typeless damage to all enemies, and then also gives a Dex character receive a 2.5 to 2.75 times orb boost for 1 turn based on the damage that you take. So very similar to the captain ability. Once you take 20,000 damage, the orb boost is the higher number. Otherwise, it's the lower number. So I think that this probably, again, I just scrap the condition, give it always the higher number. But what they could do as well is, like, if you already have an orb boost, you get a secondary buff instead, because he already provides color affinity in the super effect. What they could do as well is, like, make the color affinity overrideable, and then, like, if you already have color affinity, you get, like, some other buff. Like, they could do something like that. But the fact that he is kind of focused on using this orb boost, I would really like it if it was, like, if you already have an orb boost, you get something different instead. What Bandai typically like to do is they really like to dumb it down and make it kind of dumb, where... Dumb it down and make it dumb, right? Where they will, like, so let's say this guy's an orb boost. They'll have some effect in the captain that's like, oh, you can double buff your orb boost or something like that. Like something stupid, redundant, that doesn't make any sense, that no one will actually use. So I'm expecting them to do something like that, but we'll see. One thing that came to mind just now, actually, reading through these abilities again, is that in this captain effect, where every time you enter a new stage, it does 20% of the enemy's HP as damage. So you kill a stage, you enter the next stage, before the enemy does anything, they get hit with a 20% health cut. It would be cool is if like he has this, and then after every turn he also does end of turn damage. So you like every time you enter a stage, you do a health cut, and then at the end of every turn he does a little bit of damage to the enemy, just so that like you could potentially get around resilience buffs. I think that would be cool because you could deal with special bind and resilience technically all inbuilt in one captain effect, which would be quite cool to actually use. But yeah, special ability needs a pretty big overhaul, I think, because there's just not a lot going on here. The cooldown obviously is great. A little bit of a redundant effect, but can be useful. Damage, and then orb boost. It does need a little bit of a buff there. The support probably won't see too much change, but this is actually a really good support. Just getting an orb boost for dex units whenever you use a damage dealing special, obviously pretty good. And then in terms of Rumble, this character gives a 3 CT buff to himself, 5 attack to himself, 5 attack to dex, 3 speed to dex. So this is actually not an awful Rumble ability, all things considered. Maybe give the special CT to all characters. It would be the only change I would like to see, but I think this is perfectly fine. And then a 28 CT that does 1 times damage to all enemies in a large range. And then when there are 50 seconds or less, he does 2 times damage, and then another 2 times damage when there's less than 30 seconds. So the way that people would often use this guy is they would use him on the bench, and then when the game timer is really low, he comes in off the bench, and when he launches his special, he hits really hard. The only real issue with this is that the Dex team currently in Rumble is really absurdly strong and very hard to squeeze into, so I'm not expecting him to make headways in that regard. So what they could do is keep his abilities somewhat similar, but maybe make him focus on classes or character tags instead, potentially boosting Straw Hat characters, or boosting slashers, or boosting driven. I think that would be the best way forward to actually make him usable in Rumble, because if he's focused on Dex, it is going to be harder to use him because of how powerful and how difficult it is to really squeeze onto that team right now. But at the end of the day, you know, if you don't have some of those high level Dex characters that are very, very good and meta in Pyre Rumble, potentially introducing a character like this, which is technically free to play once the Rumble season drops, that wouldn't be a bad thing either, because just having a character that could just generically fit on a Dex team, I guess, is not terrible. But it always feels really bad when you have to try and squeeze a Sugofest exclusive onto a bench, because that 55 cost is quite heavy, right? So typically you want your legends to be on the front line, and then the, you know, your 20 cost characters to be on the bench. It just makes things more smooth. Having legends on the bench does make things hard, because typically the 20 cost characters are weaker in some fashions, typically, and putting them on the front line against most people's strongest units at the start of the game does make things a little bit clunky. So not really the biggest fan of that. So I don't think they're going to change his design wise in Rumble. He's definitely built to be a unit that will just hit really, really hard when the timer is low. Decks have a lot of those types of units. I mean, the ones that immediately come to mind: Dex V2 Doflamingo, Sober Mask Rumble Rare Recruit, Bullet Rumble Rare Recruit. There's a ton of them that are just focused on the more damage when there is less time remaining, and this is just another character that falls into that category. But that's pretty much it. That's the breakdown of this Zoro. He is going to be getting a Super Evolution relatively soon. In terms of when we will get this information, we will likely receive this information maybe when part 2 starts, or when part 3 starts of the anniversary celebration. Whenever the Kizuna Clash data download is, this guy will be alongside it, and then once we get that information for 6+ Zoro, I'll bring you guys a dedicated video discussing his abilities, and hopefully he receives some good buffs. Remember that he will also get level limit break buffs alongside the 6+, so you not only just want to get the character and super evolve him, but if you have dupes invested, he's going to be far superior, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully you enjoyed the video though. If you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.